It is a revenge tour to some degree. I'm sure Boras wouldn't like me saying that because he doesn't consider it revenge. It's just his job and he's reading the market and all that. Okay, fine.
Ken Rosenthal working overtime today. It's the Inside Scoop, our FT Senior Insider, with a special edition of Fair Territory that you can check out right after the show. We're done soon. Go hit that up on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, because it was a one-on-one with Joey Votto. Ken, great to have you on. It was awesome. So I wanted to get your post-interview reactions to that conversation and what you learned.
Well, always with Joey, talking to him is so interesting. And you guys know this. He is one of the more fascinating players I've covered because he has a depth to him. Not to criticize anybody else, but it's just different. And you can talk to him about issues that even go beyond the field. And we did. We talked about his mental health struggles after the loss of his dad. We talked about his stance on certain social issues. And of course, we talked also about his career in the Hall of Fame and what it's like to be retired. And his answers are so thoughtful that it's just fascinating to listen to. And every time I talk to this guy during his career, and of course since, it's just you walk away with something different and something that makes you think, and it's just really cool.
What did you think of the answer with the Blue Jays situation and how he ultimately decided that was not going to be the way that he goes out, based on how he viewed himself within the sport, the way that he explained being the show, right? And not just the player and the guy putting wins together. Like, I am going, it was almost a business kind of answer too, where it's like, I'm going here to watch Votto and be there for that name, but also he's got to deliver the goods.
That's right. And what interested me about that answer was the fact that he just thought it would not be right for him to go to Toronto under those circumstances. And I know a lot of fans in the aftermath of his retirement announcement said, "Hey, wait a second. Why not give this guy a day? Let's go. Let's bid him farewell." And I knew from his quotes at the time that he wanted no part of that, or maybe I sent it. I don't know if he said it outright, but to hear him explain it, he, in his mind, was not a capable player anymore. He was not someone who deserved to wear a major league uniform. And from that perspective, I sort of appreciate the honesty and the ability not to put himself first, to say, okay, it's not about me. There are 26 guys more deserving of a spot on the Toronto Blue Jays roster right now. It's time to go. And again, it was refreshing to hear this from him, but it was what I suspected all along. It would never be his style to go out and say, give me a day at some player's expense, even if you're costing him 1 day of major league service. That would not be something that my understanding of Votto he would want to do.
I don't know if you caught it or not. You had a long interview, but can you 100% say he is not coming back in February? Because he kind of hit on it a little bit. Based on the entire interview, what was your feeling?
My feeling is he's done. I don't expect to see him playing baseball again. I don't know that we won't see him as a coach or as an analyst, something else, but I would be surprised if he came back. He also talked, Eric, you heard him about how tired he was and how frustrated he was not to be able to perform at the level that he expected of himself anymore. Why he would think that level would return next February, that would be surprising to me if he had that kind of conclusion. It just seems that he obviously was thinking about this for weeks. He was having a hard time in the box. He was having a hard time, period. So it seems to me he does have closure, yes.
Oh, it was awesome. Again, we talked about it for the first 15 minutes of the show, our reaction. We showed a couple clips and then, of course, told everyone. He gives you some time. Joey thinks out those answers and kind of takes you on a winding road. I enjoy it. It's very different. It's entertaining. So everyone check that out on the YouTube channel here and wherever you get your pods. Everything's posted. Ken put some clips up on his Twitter page as well. Okay, let's get to some active players. First baseman I'll start with, because Pab in the chat said, can you ask Ken the chances of Pete Alonso re-signing with the Mets? I feel like, that's died down a little. At one point, that looked like it would have been a storyline at the trade deadline. Like, does Pete get traded? That obviously got squashed, rightfully so, with where the Mets are at. So I'll spin it to you in a different way. You had great analysis yesterday on Matt Chapman. We covered that a lot too. He signs the extension. some people are like, ooh, that's great for Bregman. I'm like, it might be great for Pete Alonso too, to kind of see what the position player market is going to look like heading into the offseason. I tend to think that teams are smart. They all talk to each other and they know there's going to be more activity this offseason. So let me jump on this one.
It's interesting because I had not thought about Alonso in the context of the Chapman signing. And the parallel you can draw, obviously, is Scott Boras' client agrees to an extension before free agency with his current team. Well, why couldn't Alonso do that? Well, they're in a pennant race right now, so that would preclude those kinds of conversations, I would think. Though people can do two things at once, it's true. A pennant race is something that demands your entire focus. That said, I have felt all along he's gone. I just don't know that David Stearns, given the way he has operated in Milwaukee, and granted, New York is a much different market than Milwaukee, he would not be investing in a 30-plus first baseman. That is still my feeling. He may make an offer. They may make a representative offer. But I just don't see it ending the way maybe Mets fans would want it to end, or most Mets fans would want it to end. That said, it's free agency. Anything can happen, and maybe he does come back. Maybe it's Aaron Judge Part 2, where you just play it out. He becomes a free agent, then he comes back to you. Now, of course, the Yankees had to pay Aaron Judge, and the competition pushed the price higher. With Alonso, I have a hard time seeing him getting more than Freddie Freeman, who was 162 over 6 with the Dodgers. Alonso is not Freddie Freeman. But Alonso is a guy who has hit 30 home runs 4 straight seasons, 5 times in his career. That's a rare commodity in the game, and it's something the Mets should want. So I can't say with any certainty what's going to happen. My gut all along has been no, he's not staying. But what happens if they make the playoffs and he goes nuts and everything's like all happy? That could change the equation. Maybe it wouldn't for Stearns, who detaches himself and remains unemotional, but the owner's involved too, Steve Cohen, and he has been pretty positive about Alonso, so we will see what happens. I would be hesitant to offer a prediction right now.
You're good at that, never giving us the answer we want. That's fine, Ken. We're used to it.
Wow.
But let me
Shots
ask you this.
fired.
Let me ask you this, Ken. I said this the other day, and then you wrote an article about Scott Boras. This was what he had hoped for Snell. This is what he had hoped for Montgomery. And then he got it with Chapman, right? He got the big deal after they signed the shorter term deal with the opt-outs. Is this, and you said it, this is kind of the first salvo in Scott Boras' revenge tour, right? I said at the time, because they asked me who's the happiest. I go, Scott Boras is the happiest that this happened, because this is a giant, like, here I come, boys, because I got Soto, Alonso, Snell again, Montgomery possibly again. I've got all these guys lined up. You're all going to have to come to me for all the stars this year.
Well, AJ, first of all, I'll try to give you an answer that you like. I know you prefer me to BS and give ridiculous answers at times.
We're just
hot takes,
asking
but
for you to
not
answer the
happening.
question. We're just asking you to answer the question we asked.
All right, the answer to this question is just what I wrote and just what you said. Even last offseason, when I was critical of Boras at times for what was going on, and I thought rightly so, I always included the caveat that it's one off season, and there are off seasons to come, opt outs to come, situations that could change a lot. And it wasn't over. One off season does not end it for Matt Chapman, for Blake Snell, Montgomery, who left, of course, and anybody else, Cody Bellinger. They had these opt outs. They had the ability to go back into the market. Chapman bet on himself, as he said, and succeeded. He had a really good year, has had a really good year, one of his best, actually, I believe his best since 19. So, given all that, Boras now has a player, and we're just talking specifically about Chapman, who is armed to go back into the market and is with a team that really needs him. And a team where Matt Chapman is comfortable, and a team that going forward needs to build around Matt Chapman and get more players like him. So they do this deal, and the way it comes out, yes, it's 6 years, 151, but don't forget the 18 million this year. That makes it 7 years and 169 million. If you would have said at the start of last offseason that would be what Matt Chapman ended up with, you would have said, wow, great outcome. And I do believe it's going to be similar for Snell. And we'll see how it goes with Bellinger. It's a little bit different. He hasn't had quite the year these other two guys have had. But it is a revenge tour to some degree. I'm sure Boras wouldn't like me saying that because he doesn't consider it revenge. It's just his job and he's reading the market and all that. Okay, fine. But he has this class. Soto and Bregman and Burns and Alonso and Snell going back out. He's going to do quite well this winter.
We're looking for real ways to boost our nutrition and just found a protein shake that actually tastes amazing. It's called Orgain, and it's been a game changer.
Orgain is the leader in real protein-powered nutrition that understands that being good for you doesn't have to taste bad. It's the organic ingredients we're looking for, but I don't want a grainy battle with my taste buds every day. You know what I'm saying? It's giving smooth milkshake vibes. That's Orgain, and they have a brand new 30-gram complete protein shake that offers protein-packed real nutrition designed to satisfy your cravings without all the sugar.
It gives me energy, provides muscle support, and helps manage hunger too. It's also made without soy ingredients and made with no artificial flavors or sweeteners.
Orgain 30-gram protein shakes are available at Costco and Orgain.com. If you want to get in on the delicious protein-packed nutrition today, head to Orgain.com/FOUL and use the code FOUL for 20% off your order. Once again, that's Orgain.com/FOUL for 20% off. And make sure you use promo code FOUL so they know FT sent you.
Yeah, I think about Mike Moustakas when he had that brutal offseason, signs the one-year deal, but then he got paid. I mean, he got paid the amount that we kind of had in our head. It just was a year later. So that's Chapman here. Okay, so some fans asking about some of the other teams that have fallen out of it, and if you think that will impact the offseason this year, and I'll give you the examples. Are the Tigers going to spend money this offseason? You know, and I know, sure, they have a very, very, very outside chance, but they're done. They're looking at next year, and there's some promising pieces. I think the Nationals are in a similar realm there, teams that have spent big in the past, but they haven't recently, and they should be kind of starting to hit their crescendo. So I don't know if you have any, teams in mind, but those two specifically, do you think that starts to spark things a little bit more this offseason and make it more of a competitive fight for some of the big names?
First off, I wouldn't totally rule out the Tigers just yet. They've got the Rockies and A's coming up. They're playing great. And Minnesota and Kansas City, where I am this weekend, those teams are struggling. So, yes, it's a long shot, but the season's not over for them. Now, the question is, should they spend this offseason? My answer is yes. And I expect their answer to a degree is going to be yes as well. They know that while they have a talented group and a group that can potentially compete for a playoff spot next year, it needs reinforcement. It needs some veteran bats in particular, guys who can anchor the middle of that lineup and let the younger players grow around them. They have, obviously, some talented young hitters, but at the same time, they need more. They need greater balance. You're not going to win with just kids, and that goes for the rotation and bullpen as well. They're kind of patching their staff together in this run that they're on now. It's really impressive, but you need to reinforce it. The Nationals, and I hate to do this, AJ, but it's hard to answer because it's hard to read the minds of the learners, the people who own the team. Yes, they have spent at times in the past, but it seems to me they like being in retreat as well as far as the finances are concerned. And it's a similar situation to Detroit in the sense that you can't just win with James Wood and Dylan Cruz and CJ Abrams and all these kids running around. They're talented. They're really good. You need people around them. And you also need, in my view, maybe a veteran at the top of that rotation so that the others fall into line. Will they do that? That I feel less comfortable believing in than Detroit. I do believe that Detroit understands now that they're going to have to take a little bit of a step forward financially, if not a major step forward. And here's one thought for Detroit. Alex Bregman. AJ Hinch was his manager in Houston. Alex Bregman is a free agent. I know they have Josh Young's younger brother who could play third base, but if you can get Alex Bregman, you probably do that.
Okay, Ken, since you can't answer any of our questions, let me ask you this question. Are you in a junior suite in Kansas City or a full-size suite?
I am in a standard hotel room, AJ.
Okay. Now,
is that an answer?
Yes, that's a good answer. But why did you opt out of the White Sox-Red Sox game this year? Did Scott Boras advise you to opt out of that game? And welcome to the club of being a dork of the week because you had to name yourself a dork for changing your own game. I wish I had that kind of pull because do you think I want to go do the White Sox, Red Sox? Like that game?
You do.
I
You
don't know.
want
tell you the
to.
whole story.
Yes.
No, I don't.
Two
Are
of
you
your former
kidding me?
teams, AJ. Two of your former teams. Of course, I've got one of them here myself. Now,
Yeah.
the whole story is this. You had said to me, and this is why I named myself Dork of the Week. You had asked me, why are you doing this game? You're never going to come to this game. And I said, no, I've been assigned there. That's where I'm going. Then last week, after our game in Philly, I go back to the truck, our production truck, where everybody after the broadcast is gathered. And they start asking me, why are you going to Boston next week? And
Yeah,
I
I
thought to
asked me
myself,
that too.
you did ask me. And I thought, you know what? That's a really good question. Why am I going there? They're falling apart. The White Sox are the White Sox. And our other game involves two contenders, two teams that haven't played all that well of late, but two contenders. So I contacted the powers that be at Fox and said, would you rather me be on Kansas City, Minnesota? And they said, yeah, we would. So that's that. Dork of the Week.
Wow. Flex.
And AJ, I should explain
dorks
to
can
you while
flex.
we have this conversation. It's a much different scenario for an analyst like yourself than for a reporter like me. I can rove. You guys can't do that. You can't just bail on your game.
You know how
I
many
can
people?
do that.
You know how many people when I tell them, they're like, even last week I was in where was I? Cincinnati, and they're like, "Oh, where are you next week?" And I'm like, "Boston." And they're like, "Who's playing?" I'm like, "White Sox, Red Sox." And they're like, "Why is Fox doing that game?" Even people I know on the White Sox and the Red Sox are texting me, "We're on Fox tomorrow for what?" And I'm like,
History.
"I guess that's
Chasing
it."
history. Also, the
They
Red
are,
Sox
yeah.
just got swept by the Mets. If they had swept the Mets, they'd be like 2 games or whatever, 3 games back. Like they've
You know
just
we
fell
said
apart.
about ifs and buts. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.